All right, welcome everybody. We are, I don't know if this is officially episode 2 or just an episode, but we're here with Michael Floyd today. Michael and I were actually at school together in college down at Notre Dame. You probably recognize his name, former NFL athlete, wide receiver, Notre Dame. I'll let you go through all that stuff, but he's agent here with EXP in Minnesota. We work together. I've been doing some open houses for him, and we connected. So we're sitting down today just to talk life, talk real estate, shoot the shit, whatever happens. So Mike, thanks for coming out today.
I appreciate it, Nick. Thank you very much for having me. I'm always excited to get on anyone's podcast and just talk about anything, talk about life, mainly in general. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were talking a little bit before this got rolling, and just in general, I think some of the experiences both of us have had, the more you can understand someone's story, and I think this is true in real estate and true in life in general, but the more you can understand someone's story, the more you can connect with them, and kind of the deeper you can go, and I think the more you just connect in general. And so I think sharing stories, whether it's with other agents or putting them out publicly, helps us understand each other as a community, and that really is what keeps us ticking.
Yeah, definitely. I think too is coming from the NFL and the professional world and football, you kind of take a lot transition into real estate also, and just kind of them values that I learned playing football. It just kind of comes into business now, and people want to work with people who they trust, who they like, and who's loyal to them, and that's basically what a team is, being on a football team or a real estate team. You got to trust people, you got to be loyal, and you got to be likable.
Yeah, I think a lot of times in real estate, people think of agents as almost like their adversary or someone. But I think when someone signs up with you, whether it's to list or buy or whatever it happens to be, it really is like you're teaming up with them in many regards, right? They're kind of calling the plays, but you're using your tactical knowledge, the knowledge of the industry, to really help them execute as professionally and as good as they can.
Yeah, and that's why definitely I got into residential real estate. I had a guy who I met who wanted me to work with him in commercial, but for me, commercial doesn't really get that relationship.
Yeah.
So
it's facts and figures.
Yeah, I'm cool with making money, but I'm really passionate about helping people.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like I've been so blessed in my life to fulfill my dreams of playing in the NFL, that this job gives me an opportunity where I can help a family or someone who's single trying to sell their house or buy a house, and just kind of change the generation of their life.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, just like when you think about playing football, if it was college, you think about Notre Dame, you think professionally, think about kind of the setting you were at. And I think that the house that you spend time in is the backdrop to all of your stories. Mm-hmm. Everything good, bad, mundane happens in that setting, and it's interesting to think about. It may not be the prominent feature, but it's what's the entire environment that is kind of encompassing whatever is going on in your life.
Definitely, and being, life is crazy as everyone understands. Everyone has ups and downs, and in real estate too, it's ups and downs. Like there's sometimes homes are sitting on the market, and you just don't know why, but you got to pay bills too.
Yeah.
So just being a professional and giving your all every single time is kind of like what we learned, being at Notre Dame and playing, sports in general. You learned a lot of that there.
Yeah. So I think that's what would really be interesting for me, and I think for some others. I mean, there's some great content out there about your time professionally, about your time in college, but that transition from, sports, athletics every day into now you're entering a totally new industry. There's going to be some name recognition, but not as much as maybe there had been before. Mm-hmm. It's got to be a big change, but I'd imagine that there are things that you learned in your time in the NFL and playing that helped you as you made that transition. Talk me through or walk me through that kind of time in your life.
Yeah, so I mean, I honestly believe that if you don't put all your energy and all your marbles into playing, once you get the opportunity to play in the NFL, you know, you're not going to last that long.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be solely focused on football and bringing your A game every single day. Because in my head, and when an older veteran told me when I got into the league, is they're always trying to replace you.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you got to bring your A game every single day. And I think a lot of guys have trouble sometimes transitioning into the real world. That's what my wife would call it, because she doesn't think the NFL was a real job.
Yeah.
But to transition, it's very tough because you've been, your mind has been solely focused on just football. So what do I do now? So I retired in 2020, and I took 3 years off to figure out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it was, a morning pickup game with guys with real estate agents and investors, and they're like, Mike, man, you should get into real estate. And I was just like, I don't know. But then after looking at it, I'm like, you know what? This is another way of helping people.
Yeah.
And like I said, a little bit earlier, I've been so blessed to fulfill my dreams of playing in the NFL that, this is a time and an opportunity for me to give back and to help out people that might be in a position where their house hasn't sold. So how about I take over and actually get it sold?
Yeah. Dude, I know we were talking about, when you're in the NFL, it's something that you have to go at wholeheartedly. And I know for me, kind of getting into real estate later in life, there's a lot of young guns out there, don't have families, don't have kids. This is what they do the whole time. So I need to look for kind of like, what's my strategic advantage? And talked about this a little bit, but I'm sober as well. And like, if I'm not dialed in, if I'm not focused on something, man, I can go off the rails. And so having something that I can really focus on, and really try to figure out what can I offer that might be different than the rest of the market. I think it's fascinating to think like that, but I think it also helps you keep your edge.
Yeah, definitely. I think in the experience, just being older, like you said, there's a lot of guys out there, a lot of young guns, doing a lot of stuff, but, we got to be efficient with our time.
Mm-hmm.
I have kids, you have kids, I can't hit the phones at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with putting on underwear for my kids and making lunches for all three of them.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of life, but, once I drop them off, I'm hitting the phones.
Yeah.
And I am going through what I've been practicing every single day is, what to say on the phone and how to say it.
Yeah.
And hopefully get that appointment that I want, so then I can go over what I already practiced.
Yeah.
And go through them with them. But that's how I learned through playing sports.
Yeah.
Is if you want something, you have to go get it, but also you have to practice.
And you have to you gotta look at game film.
Yes.
You gotta look at, like, okay, so like how did I execute, but also what could I have done better, right?
100%.
Practice that, go, take it back to the field. I think especially, I've seen that a lot in real estate. People ask these questions and it's out of left field, and you may not know what to say in the moment, but you take it back to the drawing board, and like you said, having kids, having other commitments in life, it's like my time at least expands to the time that I have available. So if I have 30 minutes and I know I need to get something done, I'll get it done in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
If I have 8 hours to do it, it'll probably take me 8 hours, right?
Yeah.
And so it's this constant kind of back and forth, and I think something that's been tough for me is getting caught up in the day-to-day and trying to make sure that I pull back to get that big view and look at, hey, am I putting my time in the right spot, or my time and attention in the right spot? Am I focusing on the right stuff?
Our time is valuable, especially having a whole family.
Yeah.
When I first started with real estate, I worked with a lot of buyers, and I was never at home for dinner.
Yeah.
And my wife sat me down and she goes, I love that you're passionate about real estate, but you got to be home for dinner. Like, I can't deal with these 3 kids. I didn't have kids with you for you to be gone all day.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do differently? So that's when I made that adjustment of being kind of mostly on the sales side, and actually going after, and what you do too, is people who had their home on the market but couldn't get it sold, so cancels and expires. So I had to, every single day, I get on the phone and practice at 6:30. And we spoke about it earlier. How do you get better?
Do you role play? Yeah.
You role play.
Yeah.
What to say, how to say it, how do I get better at running routes as a wide receiver? I have to go out there and practice every single day. And when that time does come that, they ask you a certain question,
Yeah.
or, that time comes where you gotta have that money play
Yeah.
in the league, you're there. You already know, you already experienced, you already went through them trials
Yeah.
of practice, that it comes automatic and you know what to say. So I'm happy that I had that experience of playing football, because it definitely transitions into real estate right now.
Well, it's interesting because you practice it so much that it looks natural, right?
Yeah.
And people see it and they're like, wow, it must be so cool to do that. And they don't see the hours and days and years of practice that it took to get there
No.
to make it look that natural.
Yeah, like they always think like, I was a talented football player,
Yeah.
but I was fundamentally sound. I had mental toughness, and I actually never gave up.
Yeah.
Because I had a goal in my head of making it to the NFL since I was a young man.
Yeah.
And to have that opportunity, it's just something that not a lot of people can. So, with real estate, I take the same approach as I did with football.
Yeah.
If you want to be good at something, you got to practice and you got to work at it.
Yeah.
And it's going pretty well so far.
Yeah. So I'd imagine when you developed that goal, I want to make it to the NFL when you were young, and you were single, you didn't have kids. So now that you're in real estate, what's that next milestone, and does that involve more of a kind of like holistic view of your life, like you and your wife are talking about it, like, and how are you supporting each other to get there? Like, what does that look like now?
I think, so my wife wants to go back to get her law degree.
Okay.
She works for the Great Innocence Project right now, which is
Cool,
basically
yeah.
helping people who are wrongfully committed get out of prison,
I just saw an article about that.
which is awesome. I love it. And she's passionate about it. So she wants to get back to school and get her law degree and help them individuals out. So once she does that, our family's going to change a little bit, because she's going to be a little bit busier, which she is already busy now.
Yeah.
But you just got to go with life.
Uh-huh.
And if I have to make adjustments in my schedules for you to be able to go out and do what you need to do, then that's what we got to do. But you got to be able to shift and change directions at any time, because that's what life is.
Yeah.
Life throws you curveballs all the time.
Yeah.
So it's either you're gonna get hit with a curveball, or you're gonna make an adjustment as to how I can move differently and still be productive.
Yeah. Someone shared this analogy a long time ago with me, and it really hit home. But it was like a spaceship that's going to dock on the moon, or whatever spaceships do. But it was like it's moving that direction. It has to fire its thrusters, and I like that. It's like you're generally trending in one direction, and every once in a while you pivot completely or whatever. But it's like you got to make these little adjustments as you go. And I like that. Maybe it's changing the time, changing routines. Kids are off for summer. Like wife goes back to school. My wife's at home right now with our daughter, but she'll be in daycare soon, and she's gonna get back, and just the routine changes. And one of the nice things about real estate is it does give you some flexibility to say yes or no to things, but at the same time, it's like, especially early on, you gotta hustle. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And you gotta show up and be out there, and I think you gotta be willing to do things that other people might not be willing to do.
Correct. And I would say too, like a lot of people also get into real estate because they have a sphere of influence, so that can be their main kind of clients.
Their friends, family.
Yeah. As for me, my family, there's probably, besides myself and one of my sisters, that's the only people that I know that own a house. So to me, I'm like, I can't go to my family and be like, oh, can I help you sell your house or buy a house?
Yeah.
No. So I'm trying to educate them to eventually buy a house to help out their kids and their kids. But I had to start from the ground up. And what do? You got to call people.
Yeah.
And you got to speak to people.
Yeah.
And you got to be to whatever event you can make to let people know
get out the house.
that you do real estate.
Yeah.
And I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
So
over the past, you've been in real estate, you said about 2 years now.
yeah.
What are some things that you've seen that really help move the needle for people, as far as like if they want to sell their house or they want to, you know, put an offer in? You said you work with a lot of folks who have tried to sell it before and haven't been able to. Like, just what are some of the differences that you see between people who are successfully selling their house or maybe the agents that represent them? Like, what are some of the qualities people can look out for in some of those?
Well, I'm not really, you know, obviously when you cold call, there's not just you cold calling people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and the people that start at 8 o'clock, they get an hour, you know, ahead of me,
Yeah.
you know, so what can I say to actually get them to be on the phone?
Yeah.
But I'm also not a yes person. Like, I'm gonna be real with you, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
You know, example, there's a house for 700 grand in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's not worth more than 650.
Yeah. We have 2 of those in our neighborhood right now.
Yeah, so like I'm just waiting for it to go a little canceled, expire, so I can
Yeah.
give them a call and be like, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. I love you guys. I wish you stayed in our neighborhood, but this house isn't gonna sell unless
Yeah.
X, Y, and Z happens.
Dude, I kid. We were just talking about that. There's 2 in our neighborhood that are just over 8, and I don't think they're worth more than like 6.5, and they have just sat there for
Mhm.
4, 5, 6 months. You think about like the interest that they're paying every month just
Oh,
to
yeah.
like keep them unoccupied, and
Yeah, so I
that
just
pricing is a big lever, right?
yes, I try to just be honest, and you know if they're set at a certain price, I'm like, hey, look, I'm totally fine with that, but if we don't get something in 2 to 3 weeks, let's go back to the table and make a price adjustment. Do you
Yeah.
agree with that?
Yeah.
And most of the time they do,
Yeah.
but they want to see if they can get, you know, the most amount. But really, like, if you take a different approach and putting it less than what you think you're gonna get, you're probably gonna get over asking price of whatever you thought you would get.
Yeah.
So it's different strategies that people take,
Well,
but
it's like, it's interesting because I think before the like MLS and Zillow, right? It's like you could kind of set whatever price, and if someone like came by your house and was like, "Oh, this looks great, like I'll pay that," and you could kind of ratchet it down. But now you can compare it to every house in a 20, 30 mile radius. You can see what they're priced at. You can see how long it's been on the market, and so if you come out too hot, like it's almost a death sentence for your house. Like,
Yeah.
it's, people see it's been sitting there for 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. They're like, what's wrong with that?
Mhm.
And I just saw some stat that was released that houses that come out priced well sell for I think 3 or 4 to 7% higher than houses that don't. And you know, so much that the pricing is a huge lever to pull, but also just, I think you said, being an active agent, making sure that people know about the house, that they're able to see it. Like,
Yeah.
those are big influencers.
also I think too timing. I had a community that I sold about 6-7 homes in,
Mhm.
and we have one now that is just listed and it's sitting.
Yeah.
But so timing is very valuable when it comes to real estate, because sometimes it's hot and cold.
Yeah.
You might get a month or two where it's hot, things are flowing, but then right now, you know, things are sitting,
Yeah.
you know, and it's priced right.
Yeah.
You know, it's just actually, you know, seeing, you know, the market, you know, and being honest with your client, like, hey, this is just a time where like it's slower.
Yeah.
If it was 2 months ago, I promise you your house would be gone already.
Yeah. Dude, so this is kind of spinning, but my brain was just working, and I think one of the fascinating things about you as a realtor, as a person, is that you've been in the same rooms as some of these big names, right? But you've also been on the other side of the tracks, and you've come from what many would, you know, call humble beginnings, but you can talk and you can dialogue with people from any walk of life.
Mhm.
And I think that's a very unique thing. Has that helped you as you've gotten in this industry, just being able to I don't want to say morph, because you're not morphing into anything, you're being yourself, but like just being able to show up authentically wherever you are.
Yeah, and I think that's what's, you know, kind of unique and different with me, is because I can relate with a lot of people. You know, I've been, from what people say, you know, the younger generation now, I've been through the mud.
Yeah, yeah.
and I understand, you know, whatever situation you are in life, you know, you can't, a kid coming from, you know, a single family home, you know, Section 8, you know, I can relate to you because I've been there and done it.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, for them, I just say, hey, you know, I've been in your shoes before.
Yeah.
You know, you just got to work harder than everyone else.
Mhm.
You know, you got to make the effort. If you really want it,
Mhm.
you'll make it happen. Trust me. It's right there. You have someone right here in front of your face that's been there, done it. And I can guide you and show you what you need to do, but it's you on yourself that have to, you know, make them choices.
Yeah. There is someone, it may have been like Alex Ramosi quote or something, but he was talking about how it can either be like a crutch or it can be the reason that you have the best story or something like that. I thought that was really cool, right? Like it can be the excuse as to why you don't make it, but it also is that you have this opportunity to write a really badass story that no one else has.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
right?
and I love Alex too. I love his
I do
quotes
too,
that
man. I
and
saw him speak a couple of years ago. Yeah.
dude, for me, like I don't even listen to music that much in my.
I don't either. We were just talking. Yeah.
I listen to people who motivate me, and I listen to a lot of Kobe Bryant, a lot of Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
But like, it's just my wife makes fun of me because I listen to motivational speakers,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Dude, aren't you already motivated?" I'm like, "Yeah, but I want to get even more motivated."
Yeah.
You know, like I was listening to Eminem before I came here. Lose Yourself.
Yeah.
Before I came into
Dude,
this
that's one of
podcast,
my-
because I'm like, he starts off like just saying like, you know, everything's there. Like you got one opportunity.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with it?
Yeah.
You know, it's the choices you make.
Yeah. First of all, I just found out about this the other day. Have you heard the unreleased version of Lose Yourself?
No.
On you? Oh, it's good, man. It's
Okay.
like it was the unpublished, like his original like rap to Lose Yourself, and it's on YouTube.
Okay.
But that's like one of my favorite songs. And check it out. But it's like he did the song again, and it's a cool take.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's a phenomenal song, and actually Brendan Mulrennan was talking about this recently, but the final rap scene of 8 Mile, he goes up and it's him and he's battling this, you know, one of this other guy. What was interesting though is that in his, you know, I haven't been to many rap battles, shockingly enough,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like,
No, he already knew what he was gonna say.
well, he knew what he was going to say, but he called everything out about himself.
Yeah.
And the other guy didn't have anything left to say.
Correct.
And so I think in some regards, I think being transparent about challenges that we've had in our life or struggles that we've had to overcome, it disarms people.
Mhm.
I mean, not necessarily that they're going to, you know, make fun of you for it or whatever. I feel like that's more like elementary school when that happens, high school, whatever. But like, it allows people to connect with you, right? So if you share the damaging admission about yourself,
Mhm.
it takes away the teeth.
Yeah. Well, us as men in general, you know, we kind of hold everything in.
Yeah.
You know, and people expect us to hold everything in.
Yeah.
But I honestly see my story as therapy for myself.
Yeah. It's
In a
beautiful-
way to be able to express my own feelings and be vulnerable. Because I know there's a lot of people who've been through kind of my way of life.
Yeah.
And are experiencing the same kind of things and trying to get over that hump. You know, and a lot of people just need a little push.
Yeah.
Just a little push. And that's why I listen to podcasts or I listen to, you know,
Yeah.
certain things on YouTube, because to get started for my day, I just need a little push.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude, so you're thinking about your story as therapy for yourself. I really like that.
Mhm.
And it's like, you can have the same circumstance, but you can look at it in two different ways, right? And sometimes you have that moment where you flip from like, this is what's holding me back, to being like, holy shit, like that really made me strong,
Mhm.
right? And it's like, the same thing happened to you, and you just look at it differently.
Mhm.
So how we frame these things in our life, and that we have this constant dialogue in our head of who we are, you know, and it's very interesting because it's like, theoretically we should know ourselves better than anybody.
Yeah.
But if I ask you, you know, like, who are you, like, it's if someone asks me that, it's like it's hard. I don't know. Like there's so many different things I can
Yeah,
say. You're like
yeah.
I don't know. Like who am I? Right? It's taking some time to actually think about that or write that down or even just like put pen to paper because it forces you to be linear about your thought. Like
Yeah.
you know, I was born here on this day and like start there and just write. And it's very interesting to do. I've done it a couple times and it like to see like like what's going through my head right now when I write it out and like what's this version of me versus if I do it in 2 years.
Yeah.
And then what are the stories and like how am I framing, what words am I using to frame that, right?
Yeah.
It can really say a lot about how you view yourself.
Yeah, and I have ADHD, so I have to write stuff
Yeah.
down. Otherwise, I'm gonna forget it and move on to going grocery shopping or something like that.
Yeah,
Like,
it
my
is.
mind just wanders, dude.
Yeah.
Like I'll be in bed and I'll just think of something, and I have to tell my wife then
Yeah.
because if I wait till the
Otherwise, it's
morning,
gone. Yep.
it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, so I always have a pen and paper or my computer
My
or my
notes
note
app is
on my
just
phone.
full of stuff.
Yeah, I have to write it down, otherwise I'm gonna forget it. But
Yeah.
that's with football too. Like I'm not a I have to go through the motions or I have to see it drawn on the board
Yeah.
in order for me to comprehend it all. Because like if you just give me, you know, a big sheet of paper or a playbook, I'm like, it's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
As in like you go through it each step as to what you want to see and how to do it,
Yeah.
like that.
When I was doing script work, I hand wrote it out too.
Oh, yeah.
And then you internalize it and you say it, right? And like, but I think it's a hopeful step.
Oh yeah, even with the role play in real estate or with anything, like instead of the music or like the motivational speaking, I'm going through
Dude,
what to say and how to say it in
if
the
anyone
car.
had a recording of me in the car, I have Chat GPT on, like talking to me, and I'm
Yeah.
role playing with Chat GPT. It'd probably be very interesting to have candid
Yeah,
camera.
yeah,
but,
that's exactly how it goes. But if you want to be good at something, you got to put the time in.
You
Like,
gotta obsess about it, man, and I love that it's Layla Hermosi, right? And she says that like she went through this period where she was like she got arrested a number of times and she was lost, and she was like, what I found out about myself is that I have to be hunting, and people like me have to be hunting something, and I love that, man. Like just the analogy of like when I'm happiest in life is when I'm like engaged and I'm learning and I'm implementing, and I'm like I don't know, I like there's a George Kittle quote. He talks about like straddling that line between chaos and clarity or something.
Mhm.
Just like you gotta be flirting with like being uncomfortable, and to me that's where I feel very alive.
yeah, I mean, they say get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, and once you establish that, you know, you're going out and being that uncomfortableness turns into being comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, and that goes to for me in my life, like playing football. Like you put yourself in them certain situations all the time,
Yeah.
and in practice you go through it all.
Yeah.
You know, and you know when it comes 3rd down and 7, you know it's crunch time. Gotta have it play.
Yeah.
You know, you already been there.
Yeah.
You've already done it in practice. You repped it 100 times. You know, this is just another stroll in the park in practice.
Yeah.
Now make the play.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's second nature at that point.
Yes.
It has to be.
100%.
And that's, I don't know why I somehow related this back to like buying a house, but buying a house is not we don't do it that often in life. We maybe do it, some of us 3-4 times, some people 1 time if they're lucky, you know? But it's like, someone's gonna go through my finances. That's not, you know, it's not great to think about.
Yeah.
Like, I gotta decide if I can balance this every month or and it's an uncomfortable place to be in, but I think, you know, the long run you're buying an appreciating asset, all that shit. But like it's just it's kinda like it's like working out, it's like playing on a team, it's like applying for a new job. It's this thing that you can do that when you have it and you have this little piece of ground that's yours, it's like it's just another indicator of people who I think are willing to get a little uncomfortable because they want to explore their own potential as humans. And I
Yeah,
think
well,
that's a cool.
That's awesome. What I tell my buyers too, and one of my buyers was a family, my brother-in-law,
Okay.
and him and his wife were, they could get a $650,000 house.
Yeah.
They're approved for $650,000.
Yeah.
But at $650,000 with this interest rate, you know, you're paying $5,000 a month. That doesn't fit your budget.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so how about this? How about you get a house that you stay in for 5 to 7 years?
Yep.
Something that fits your budget. You gain equity in that house. You sell it,
Yeah.
and then you get that house that you always wanted.
Yeah.
You know, but because you're approved for 700, 650.
Doesn't mean you should do that.
No, that's not in your budget, and you don't want to be house broke.
Yeah.
Then you don't. Then you're nitpicking at, oh, I can only buy this or groceries for the kids, you know. And
Yeah.
no, this.
Well, and you're going to bed stressed every night. That's a big one for me. I hate that feeling.
No, don't let that. Don't put that into your life where like you're struggling to make it because you purchased a bigger home than what you actually need. You know, so instead of paying $5,000 a month, yours is $2,000.
Yeah.
Okay, that works. You know, so you have all this flexibility of extra money to, you know, go on a date if you want to once a month with your wife, or you know,
go on a trip.
Go on a trip. You know,
and it kind of keeps you hungry for that next one, right? Like you're working towards something. We try to do that too. Of like if you're looking between two houses, right? Like rather than looking at sticker price, like what's the monthly payment on this one compared to this one? Is that extra bedroom worth $200 a month to you? If so, like makes it an easy decision, right? But like let's look at what's the monthly implication. Just like a lot of things in life, making it to the NFL, working out, like when we have it as this big amorphous thing in life, it's tough. But you know, public speaking is like, I gotta do something every day to move towards that. What does that look like? What are the daily, weekly indicators of that? And then if you can start tracking those, like, you know, I recently started tracking the dials that I'm making and the contact rates, and like, it's just interesting. It gives you data points, and you can see it. If what I'm doing, is it working? Is it trending in the right direction? But I think sometimes we talk about these big numbers, and it almost feels amorphous, or like we can't connect with it.
Yeah, I think also setting goals that are manageable.
Yeah.
You know, some people are like, you know, I want to sell 50 homes this year. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how much work goes into that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my goal is to do at least 25 a year.
Well, and it's like, okay, that's a perfect example, man, because it's like, if you say you're going to sell 50, and you probably haven't really, if you're a new agent, like some people, okay, whatever, but if you're a new agent, you say you're going to sell 50, you're probably going to sell 0 or close to 0. But if you set, it's like, hey, realistically, what can I do? And maybe I want to push just beyond that.
Yeah.
If you actually thought about it, and you have something that's you're capable of doing, that's not going to overstretch you, where your family is stressed out because of it, like, okay, now we can work towards that, and we can actually hit this goal, or we can get really close. Versus, like, yeah, I think, like you said, like, if it's not even reasonable, if it's not even in the wheelhouse, like, what does it actually mean?
Yeah, and then like when you set them high goals like that, which I'm totally for setting high goals.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to somewhat reach them, because like I feel like when you set them too high and you don't reach that, nowhere near even close, then the negative mindset comes in.
Yeah.
You know, is this for me? Is this what I'm supposed to do? Because a lot of people aren't going to go to, you know, well, I didn't put that much time into it. That doesn't go into someone's head. They just think obviously negative.
Yeah.
So like, if, you know, 10 houses as a new beginner, you know, I would do 5.
Yeah.
You know, you pass that, then each and every year you gradually just get better and better. You learn from the mistakes that you had, and you improve.
Yeah. Move the stake up.
Yep.
I think that's one of the tough things for me with social media, is that you see everyone else's kind of highlight reels, right? And I'm here experiencing my own bloopers. That's the way that I think of it, right? Like I'm looking at, like, I don't want to get up this morning, like I didn't really feel good during my workout today, or I missed this sale, or I messed up on this call. But then everyone is putting out their, like, kind of highlights, and that's why I think it's helpful when people share more of their story and you can connect with it. But it's I think there is something to be, this is kind of going 2 different directions here, but
Okay.
you know, I think when you put something out publicly, I think there is this, like, I'm committing to doing it.
Yep.
Right, and that's scary, because then if you don't do it, you're held accountable because you said it.
Yes.
And so I think there is something to be said for putting it out publicly, but caveating that with, like, let's be realistic about this, and let's recognize that we're human.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I love this podcast because, like, whatever comes to your head, we just saying that. What you were talking about there, being social media, and everyone puts out all the glamorous stuff. But I'm a perfect example of, I was still working. My wife would tell you more stories, but she was in the hospital for 8 days.
Yeah.
For a condition that we didn't know that she had, and we had to a surgery that was supposed to be a same day procedure turned into 8 days in the hospital,
Oh.
and me thinking to myself like, all these things going to your head during that time, and obviously she can go more in depth at some time when she's ready, but like I'm thinking in my head like I can't be a single dad. I got 3 kids.
Yeah.
I broke down to my sister when she came into the house, and I'm thinking, all the crazy things going through my head, like, I'm gonna have to go to the cul-de-sac and ask everyone, how much they want for the house, because I can't do this on myself if something happens. But that makes me think about like how much people put out there of good stuff, not knowing everyone's going through something.
Yeah.
I don't care how rich you are, how poor you are, you have something in you that you're going through, and that's everybody.
The stories like differ by degree, not by kind.
Mm-hmm.
We all have. I mean, I think it's interesting to think about human emotion or the human experience boiling down to like love and fear of like, in a sense, every positive thing is some variation of love, but I think fear is something we encounter on a daily basis, and it's how we push back against it, how we look at it, if we choose to ignore it. I think that's what really, to a large extent, is what determines the trajectory of our lives, right?
Yeah, I think so too. Like fear is the number one thing that people don't want to see. And gets them in that position of not doing something or not extending to where they can be. But once you get over that mountaintop of having fear be behind you, it's you, the positive mindset comes into play, and you're like, oh yeah, I just beat that. Like I know I can overcome something else, and whatever comes my way. So adversity hits everyone.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do with it?
You gotta, like, confidence isn't like chanting affirmations in a mirror. It's creating an undeniable stack of proof that you are who you say you are.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Right? Like, it doesn't. You don't have to like go battle the monster today, but like do a few push-ups, like read a book, whatever it is, right? Like it's you just need to take actions towards that. I have a calendar I got at home, and every day I do the daily task that I set for myself. I make an X, and it's like I've gotten to a point now where I have like 40 X's in a row, and if I miss one, it's going to really piss me off, right? But it's like, it's just that consistency. It doesn't have to be 8-10 hours every single day. Like, you're going to have days that you have to grind and you got to push, but like it's more about that daily experience. And it's I love that book, I haven't read the book, but the idea of like eat the frog, right? Like, what's that thing that you don't want to do, and like knock that out first in the morning, or like make your bed in the morning. It's like you get that first thing done, and it sets the tone for the day.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, 5:30 every morning I go to a place called Embrace North, local in Northeast Minneapolis.
My buddies invited me over there.
But it's a cold tub and sauna.
Yeah.
But that's how I start my day every single day.
Yeah.
And if I'm late, I'm late at 6 a.m. But I'm doing it regardless. It just gets me ready for the day.
Yeah.
And then that organic dopamine from that cold tub. If I could start cold calling at 6:30, I'd be the best cold caller ever.
Yeah.
Because I'm ready to go. I'm wired, baby. I'm ready to go home and make them lunches, baby.
Yeah. You feel? I mean, I think that cold exposure is fascinating. There's some really cool stuff about it. But I like exercising more in the afternoon. But if I start my day with it, so I always get up and I hit the treadmill for a little bit. And just starts the day. And, I don't know, but those, it's different too, though. You got kids, like, it's like maybe they wake up sick at 4, or they can't go to school that day, and like you just got to audible, and like life isn't always as cut and dry as like I have this 10-step morning routine that I do every day to get started, and it's like every once in a while it's like a storm just happens.
Oh yeah.
But
people who don't have kids can't relate to that.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
You don't know. Like
But it is, I think, at the same token, right? If you're living in such a way that you're so reactive to everything your kids are doing, or that work throws at you, or whatever, and you don't have those grounders of like, hey, I'm gonna go to Embrace North, or I'm gonna go to the gym, or I'm gonna like read my book, or whatever. Like my wife and I journal every night, and this couples journal. We have been doing it since we got married, and it's like some nights it takes us 5 minutes, and some nights it like leads to a 2-hour conversation. But it's like just a little grounding thing that like keeps us, like reminds us to like check in with each other. And it's like, but just those little things. It doesn't have to be much. It doesn't. And I think sometimes you can have too much, and that's like we were talking about, that just feels overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely things that me and my wife do. I mean, I love golf.
Yeah.
And golf is like therapy for me too. Regardless if I win money or lose money, I tell my wife I'm a better husband and I'm a better father if I golf, win or lose. That's my kind of getaway.
Yeah.
You know, if I can do that, you're gonna see a happy Michael all the time at home. But when I don't, you know, it's might be a little cranky at the house.
Also, for
simulator.
Okay.
So I bought one during COVID because I was going crazy.
Yeah.
But now I don't use it because it's strollers, it's toys. It was my third starter garage at home, so now it's full of something. So it hasn't been used that much, but I think we'll put it back into play here shortly.
Yeah. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
They just opened up this ballpark here in Blaine. It's, I guess that's batting range, but I don't think they have. I feel like they're popping up all over.
Well, some simulators can do that also. Soccer, baseball, anything like that. It can kind of capture it and you know, give you the kind of stats that you want. But I'm trying to get my kids into golf or something, some type of activity. They do break dancing.
Cool.
They do tennis, horseback riding lessons, and gymnastics. So
we're gonna have to connect. I want to get my son into some horseback riding. About that, so that's it. Yeah, that's a whole other. But yeah, being a parent, man, is just that's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, yeah.
But like, it's just
we can save that for next time.
Oh my gosh, dude. It's just like when you, like, my wife and I were just talking about this. Like, you watch a movie or you read a news article and they talk about like kids who have died, or like, you know, shows about kids getting kidnapped or whatever. And like, I was at my son's Cub Scout thing the other night, and like they wanted to go like eat in this kind of fort in the woods, and he said he wanted to go check out this place. It was just right over the hill, and I was like, go ahead. I was like, just come back. And he wanted to go explore a little bit, and I was like, it was like 15 minutes, and I thought he had been picked up by, like, it was right by this older apartment building, and I'm like, where did he go? And like my heart's racing, you know. And he ended up being fine, but like it hits home in a totally different way, you know, when you have your own.
Definitely. And I like it having kids that, you know, it's just, and being married too, that it's like, I'm the least important person in my house, you know, and I have to provide for little kids. Yeah. And it's awesome. It's crazy at times, but I wouldn't want my house any other way. Yeah. I mean, even when one kid isn't there, it's different. Yeah. You know, and when they're all there, or if we go on a couple's trip and we come back, I'm just like, my wife wants to leave for like 5 days. I want to come back in 3. I've had my time away. I want to go home and be a dad. I want to go and hug my kids.
Dude, this will be interesting to be on, to have recorded, but I feel like you and your wife have this kind of relationship too. But we talk about this sometimes, but like one of my worst, my wife is like my best friend, man, and I don't know how I found her, or how, you know, the whole serendipitous series of events, but like I never want to get to a point in life where I feel like I'm just settling or getting by, whether it's like with my work or my family, my house. And I love, and I feel like, in a sense, like just being active in whatever it is, and continually looking to try to just improve or enhance the relationship or whatever. It's just such a beautiful thing in life that we can do, is foster these connections, whether it's with kids or our spouses, or develop our career. Maybe it's going deeper in real estate, or maybe it's using that to explore something else, but like to just saturate ourselves and to try things, and maybe it doesn't work out, but at least you tried it, right?
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, to me, like, that's like my one fear in life is just not just settling.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I totally agree. My wife is my best friend also, but you know, since I met her, she lets me see things I've never seen before,
Yeah.
or never been around, and get the experience. And I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I totally understand that. You know, because I lived a totally different lifestyle before I met my wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We have very different upbringings. And
yeah,
experiences, but
yeah, it's different. And like I said, we'll definitely do another podcast for sure when it talks about different things. But
Yeah.
because we can get down and dirty to a lot of
yeah, I
things.
didn't know we could go a lot of different records.
But I think a lot of people between us two can see that we're kind of in the same boat also.
Yeah.
And
similar
it's all
stage of
about
life.
the adjustments and
Yeah.
how you approach it mentally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if this ain't right, it's not going to be right out there.
Dude,
you know?
it's, I mean, just, I know we gotta wrap up here, but it's like, you have someone come in, some problem or situation arises, and if you just, it's like almost a subconscious thing that I think you train yourself just over time to, but you're not even like, should I do it or not? It's just all right, do I go left or right?
Mhm.
It's like, I'm gonna confront it. But if you're wrestling with like, oh, should I do it? Should I not? It's like, fuck, you lost the war already.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, but you just gotta like, you just gotta engage it. And,
Yeah.
and I say that I'm far from perfect, and there are things that I should do that I haven't, but like, that's like quintessentially life, and that's
Yeah.
like, when you're engaged and with it, and you're making mistakes, but you're learning from them, like, it's just a ride.
Oh yeah, that's
So.
I totally agree with you, brother.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thanks for coming out, man. First podcast, and we'll get you back here at some point. So,
Sounds good.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.